What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho, where I just hit the loud Indian music by accident. I am the one-armed madman, and back with me to talk anarchy and so much more, we've got the great Michael Storm. What's up, Mike?
Hello.
How we doing?
Man, I'm good. I am fantastic. I have a great year.
Excellent, excellent. What's been on your radar as of late?
You know what I've been doing? Having fun.
Yeah, hey, we were just talking about this before the pod. That's
That's
what
was
life's
perfect
about,
because-
right?
Yeah,
Having
that's what
fun.
I've been doing. I've been having fun, man. It's been the beginning of this year. We relaunched the comic book shop, and I started another show. It's only going to run for a couple of months, but we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Going to see Kevin Smith.
Ooh, that's fun.
That's it's the 25th anniversary of Dogma or something like that.
Wow.
So he's doing a tour,
Man.
and it's only like a dozen stops or something like that, and one of them's just down the road from me. So
We
I'm
were
gonna go
we
see
were
him.
just talking about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back on the last episode. We were
Oh,
just
yeah?
talking about like comedies that not tons of people have seen, and one of the ones that I was talking about was Dirty Work with Norm Macdonald and a
Sure.
bunch of like you've seen that. That's a great fucking movie. But my other co-host, he was like, "Oh, Jay and Silent Bob all day," and I was like, "Yes, absolutely." You know,
Love me some Jay and Silent
Oh.
Bob. That's my era. Kevin
Dogma's
Smith and
really
I were
good,
the same
though.
age. We're into all the same things.
Yeah, Dogma's super good though. I remember watching that movie for the first time, going, "Wow, that was not what I was expecting." Because I don't think I saw it until probably, 10, 15 years or so after it came out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because
So you probably had a entirely different impression of it than what it actually was.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it was so badmouthed by the Catholic community. I mean, he received death threats.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the new show that you were talking about, is this the one where you've been breaking down comics? Because I've been enjoying watching those clips on the internet.
Oh, well, thank you. No, that actually is part of it. Yeah, I'm doing that now. That's part of the fun because obviously it's something that's been missing in my connectivity here. I own
Yeah.
a comic book shop. I'm a reporter, a journalist, and a news guy. I don't know what the hell I am.
Yeah.
But it made perfect sense. So I started doing that right at the beginning of the year, and I've been doing about an average of one a day, not quite. And no, that's fantastic. That's really fun. But what I was speaking of specifically was I'm doing another live show for the network for Republic Broadcasting, and
Oh.
it's on Thursday afternoons. And I'm just the host. It's a health show,
Oh, cool.
and we're doing a live thing where it's call-in, so people can speak to Dr. Dean Lloyd. He's a creator of the Accutone method.
I've listened to him on your
He's
podcast
great.
before.
I've been talking to him for years. I've
Yeah.
been having him on my show about once a month for, I don't know, 3 years now, something like that. And we just always talk about different aspects of the health industry and ways that people can approach their health care, particularly mental health. And we always wanted really to get the live interaction thing going, but I haven't been doing my show live for a while now because I gave up the live show to get my extra hour back. So I have
Nice.
a couple of hours on the network each week as opposed to 1 hour that was live. But then, so yeah, we're taking live calls in the afternoon
Hell
on
yeah.
Thursdays, and
What-
we're not.
What was the time again? Thursdays at.
It's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nice. I'll have to call in sometime and give you guys some.
Yeah,
give you guys some
that'd
fun,
be a great conversation.
I've got some
And-
fun health things that I can
Right.
ask the old
Dr.
guy.
Lloyd would love to
He's a
talk to
very
you.
smart guy.
I'd line him up. He'd be glad to come on your show, I'm sure.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I should do
Yeah,
that
I'd
sometime.
put you in contact with him. I'd
Cool.
do that for you.
Cool.
He's great. He's one of those guys that gets it, man. You know this, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know when you talk to a guy and you say something to him and you don't have to repeat yourself?
Yes. Oh man. And like, I don't know about you, but sometimes on podcasts when I have people on that I haven't had on before, or maybe I don't really know or something like that, sometimes after like 5, 10, 15 minutes, you're like, oh shit, this guy just blew his entire load. and like
Yeah,
now,
right. What do
and
we
now
talk about
it's like
now?
now I have to carry this entire 45-minute podcast, and it's so fucking hard. And I've had that happen a bunch of times, and I've actually not released a couple episodes that I've recorded just because at the end I was just like, ugh, I'm bored. Like if
I'm
I'm
bored.
bored,
I
then
can't
I
do it.
know the
Yeah, I
audience is gonna be
luckily I
bored.
haven't run into that too often. The only thing that I really ran into along those lines is I had a conversation. I don't even remember why I was trying to talk to the guy, but he was in, I don't know, Zimbabwe or some crap. He wasn't in
Yeah.
my time zone, and I don't know. I tried calling him. I tried calling him from my cell phone. I tried calling him from the house phone. I tried calling him from all these different places and couldn't get through to him. And eventually he called me and he tried to blame it on me and tried to talk about how I was unprofessional and not providing the right amount of time for him and stuff. And I talked to him for about half an hour and I told him, no, I'm done talking to you. I can't stand talking to you anymore. And I still have the recording, but I never released it.
Yeah, I've got
Why?
like 2 or 3 of them in my thing still that I just, by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I just don't think so. One of the guys I messaged him and I was like, honestly, dude, like I kind of fucked that one up. I had this older guy on and he wrote a book about one of the Beatles in the 70s or something like that in New York City. And I was like, man, you must have been a pretty cool fucking dude back in the 70s in New York City. And he's like, I'm a cool dude now. And then he was just kind of like defensive and on his back foot for the rest of the show.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of
Of a
fucking.
comment like that?
Yeah, it really got under his skin. And then I said something else after that, which like would never have gotten under my skin, but did under his. And by the end, it was like, all right, man, like I clearly annoyed you, and I'm not gonna put this episode out because I just feel like you were angry for the entire time. And he was like,
That's too bad.
he was just like, well, you asked horrible questions and you framed them in the wrong way. And I was just like, okay, dude, whatever. We're done. Like, fuck you. I did the best I could. Like, if somebody said to me, man, you must have been a pretty cool dude in your 20s when you were racing motocross, I'd have been like, yeah, man, I was. Like, we had
I
a lot of
was,
fun.
and I'm
Like, it was
still
fun.
cool.
Yeah, like, I would not take that
I wouldn't have
personally.
been offended by that.
It
That's
was
weird.
wild. Yeah, people get offended by the weirdest shit sometimes. And, like, it's really hard to offend me for the most part, especially like in a setting like this where you're exploring ideas and like talking to people about real things, not just, surface level bullshit that most people discuss on their day-to-day lives.
The weather.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. My grandfather is the weatherman. Like my mom calls him Ted Weather because every time you talk to him, he immediately goes to the weather.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's some people that are like that. They just can't hold a conversation. And it's funny too because I know I do. I try to give people a lot of credit and and it, and it just comes back to bite me every single time. They just aren't as smart as I give them credit for.
Yeah, I sometimes assume that people are as smart as I am for the most part, and then you realize really quick it's like, oh,
Oh
that's
no.
not right. That you do something like go to college, and you realize, oh no, everybody is not as smart as I am. Like
No,
these
no,
people are really
no.
really dumb.
That's funny because the college thing, of course, they're cracking down on the student loans
Yeah,
again.
which is great.
That's one of the things that was come out this week, I guess, in the news. And of course, for me, it's a funny conversation. I have no friends on any side of these issues because I'm never on the same side as anybody else. I'm always on the right side of the issue, whatever that is. And it
Yeah,
seems like politically nobody's on the right side of an issue. So it's funny watching them talk about the student loan thing, and everybody get all incredulous about it. The left thinks that I'm behind them 100%, and that screw the bankers and screw all this, and it's a loan, and it's money, and it doesn't mean anything, and but
yeah,
all the communist bullshit attachment to loans and businesses and things like that. They hear me say fuck the bankers, fuck those loans, and they think that's what I mean. They think I'm talking about their irresponsibility and saying that it's okay to be irresponsible, to borrow money from people and not pay them back. except that they're not listening to the rest of the conversation. The rest of the conversation is that it's a fraud, that the money is fake, that they tricked you into getting the loan in the first place, and that they're not going to have any responsibility. Are you kidding me? The schools benefited from it. They're not going to be responsible for it. The government benefited from it. They're not going to be responsible for it. The banks benefited from it. They're not going to be responsible for it. We got fucked all the way around on it, and we're still getting fucked on it. And so I don't have any friends on the right because I don't think the loan should be paid back. Fuck
Yeah.
the banks. Fuck these student loans. Fuck the student loan program. End it completely. It should be over. The government shouldn't be in the business of education. Period. Because there's no culpability. There's no responsibility for anybody. When the government gets involved in something, it takes away the responsibility. For the banks, it takes away their financial responsibility, their responsibility to be responsible financially, to look at their money and to look at the lender and go, this is somebody that we should not be lending money to because this person is not going to have the ability to pay it back. This person doesn't need this money. This person can't afford this money. They don't have that responsibility. The schools, they're just getting students. They don't care. It's not their problem. It's they help them fill out the loans. They got the loans. The loans are guaranteed. The banks are covered. We get paid. Everybody gets paid.
Yep.
Well, fuck the people.
And
It's their money in the first place. The whole thing to me is a conversation that I can't. I don't have any friends on.
No, me neither. And the whole deal with that like ridiculous loan game that they're playing is the price of school just keeps going up and up and up because they're guaranteed to get those loans. And it doesn't matter if you're an 80 IQ midwit, they're going to pass you anyways. Like I went through these schools, like if they started failing people who legitimately deserve to fail in these college classes, the entire system would collapse because you wouldn't have the guaranteed loan thing. You have to have these 80 IQ midwits in there to guarantee this loan scam. And I think
there'd be a lot of colleges that would shut down.
Yeah. And I
would think pretty quickly. Yeah.
Sorry, dog. No, and like I think that dude, teachers and guidance counselors, they have a lot of culpability in this fucking disaster. Yeah. Like, I think they're some of the biggest villains in modern society, and most of them probably belong in jail for a short time from what they've done to the youth of America. Right. You know what I mean?
No, it's a fair statement. You know, my wife was a teacher here in a pretty rough school district in America. And rough school inside the rough district in terms of the poverty and the ignorance of the people, all of the people involved, from the goddamn administration to the teachers to the parents to the children themselves.
Yep.
And
every one of them pushing the dumbest kids in school.
Enough of it.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said every one of them is pushing the dumbest kid in school to go to college. Yeah. If you don't go to college, you're going to end up digging ditches. And it's like, dude, the guys who dig ditches, they don't dig ditches forever. They move up, and they start their own company. And by the time they're 50, they're retired. Their kids have got a business to take over, and things are just rolling. Every generation that retakes over that business should be able to make it better. If the father is doing the job and teaching their son, and maybe their daughter also, you know, you got your son doing the work, and you got your daughter doing the books, or something like that. Like my buddy's a contractor, a private contractor for himself, and I'm like, dude, your kids, you should have your boy working for you by the time he's 10 or 12, and you should have your daughter doing your books by the time she's like 14, you know? And, you know.
Yeah, no, give them an opportunity to get in there and get involved.
Yes. Even if they don't like it, they're going to learn something.
We like to learn.
Yeah.
And kids like to learn, believe it or not.
Yeah. I've got another really unpopular opinion about colleges that conservatives just really fucking hate, and it is that I think men destroying women in women's sports is a good thing because it shows how ridiculous and stupid these colleges actually are. And anything that we can possibly do to keep parents from spending that money to send their kids to college is a good thing. Go start your own sports league. I grew up racing dirt bikes. There's not a school in the country that has a dirt bike team. We never complained. We just went to the private races every weekend. It's not that hard to start your own swimming deal. Like, look at Ironman. Ironman is crushing. They're going all over the world. They're doing, races everywhere, and people fucking love it. You don't need to go to college for this bullshit. Most of you are never going to make the Olympics. just that's it, you know.
Most
Go
of you aren't going to make the team,
Yeah,
let
most of you
alone
aren't
the
going to even make the
Olympics.
team. So like if you're sending your kids to college for sports, they better be going to the NBA. Otherwise, you're wasting time and money.
And these days, hell, I right out of high school.
Yeah, you know, it the kids are maturing so much like faster these days and with
Well, and we're
the
talking
internet
about a
and
sport anyway, and we're
yeah.
talking about when you're talking about basketball or something like that,
Yeah, they're
an
ready at 18,
8-year-old is
a lot of them.
probably perfect to be playing it
Yeah.
because by the time you get to 30, it's not as easy anymore.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. Like forever motocross racers were retiring at like 30. Like nobody made it past 30. And in the
Sure.
past couple years, guys have been going like 35, 36 and
It's all Tony Hawk's fault.
it is, right?
He was the first one. He's the first old guy to go, nah, I can still do this extreme sport stuff.
Yeah. But I also think medical technology has gotten a lot better
Yeah.
to where like you remember when like here's a good example. Terrell Davis tore his ACL when he was like the baddest running back in the NFL when he was playing
Yep.
for Denver, like just destroying everybody. Tore his ACL, it was never the same. But
Never
now
quite the
these guys
same.
tear
Yeah.
their ACLs and they come back sooner and their knee's stronger than it was when they tore it. So that's
It's
pretty
amazing,
freaking
right?
cool. It is. It's something.
But that's that conversation about that medical industry that some people they they miss that part of it, the good part of it, because we hear it constantly, especially in the circles we run in. Just it's nightmare after nightmare. My own experiences not too long ago. The old man uh, had a tumble here, and luckily didn't destroy the hip, but he had a nice little
Yeah.
crack there in one of the femur at the top of the femur there, and so we had to go through all this rehab and everything. And he's on a CPAP machine already, and they have a respiratory specialist over in this rehab place that for the week that he's there can't figure out how to get the goddamn CPAP machine to work. Keep telling me it's broken. I don't know nothing about goddamn CPAP machine,
Yeah.
but it's a simple little device. It's so simple that it has like little green happy faces on it when it's working properly. It's an
Yeah.
idiot proof kind of device, and these people are fucking professionals supposedly. And for a week, they're telling us, oh, it don't work, it doesn't work. Well, first of all, you got it set up around. Well, it still don't work. All right, well, whatever. You guys have your thing figured out. The day after he's out of there, we take the CPAP machine over to the VA. They look at it. It's working perfectly fine. We haven't done a goddamn thing to it since. But these are professionals, mind you, in the medical field.
Yeah. I've had a lot of doctors since I've gotten hurt. I've had a lot
Mm.
of really good doctors and I've had a couple really bad doctors.
All right.
And the really bad ones, they do such a disservice to the entire like medical community or medical establishment, whatever you want to call it. Like they're
All of the
just
above.
yeah, and they're just so bad at it. Like this always kills me when I when I think about it. I had this doctor that was just awful. My first doctor in Idaho was just really bad. And it took me a couple years to realize he was an idiot. But one day I was just sitting there talking to him and I was like, holy shit, this guy's an idiot. That's not good. And I got a new doctor. So I'm like searching for a better doctor. And we find this guy in the area who was like the head of an amputee clinic for the VA in Minnesota or something like that for like 30 years. We're like, okay,
Wow.
there's no way we're going to find a guy with more experience than this guy.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're like excited to go in and I asked him about this medication that my mom had started taking a couple of months ago that like really helped her with her pain and a bunch of other things. She's got some autoimmune issues. So I asked the guy about it and he's like, yeah, that's a placebo. I don't prescribe placebos. I'm like, well, if it's a placebo, what's the problem with prescribing it? If it has no, downsides to it, just maybe a potential placebo effect, it seems like it wouldn't hurt to try and I don't prescribe placebos.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, a couple of weeks go by. I decide to ask him to put me back on oxycodone again. And he goes, yeah, the thing about oxys is they don't get rid of the pain. They just make you not care about the pain. And I'm like, what's the fucking difference?
For the person that's in pain, I don't think there is a significant difference, but
Give me some of that. I don't care. It's like, and at that point it was like, oh my God, I got another idiot. Like, how is this even possible? So this guy goes through, I'm seeing him for another couple months, and he wants me to do the spinal cord stimulator thing, which ended up just destroying my fucking life. It was a horrible decision. Anyways, he was telling me like, oh yeah, I don't prescribe, opioids to people unless they're dying, essentially, because you don't need them. You can get the desired effects with other drugs and this and that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. This guy's an idiot.
Out of context, that's problematic. I suppose in context, in a better situation, maybe. But well, because yeah, obviously you don't want to put somebody on narcotics if you don't have to.
Yeah.
But that's not the. I don't think that's what he was getting
Yeah.
at, right?
No. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I had to request my records from him for some other reason, like an insurance thing or something like that. So instead of sending my records, he sends me somebody else's records. And this guy has like a herniated disc or something, which is a little painful, but compared to what I've got going on, it's nothing.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? And
Minor.
the guy's on fentanyl and oxys and Dilaudid and just all of this shit. So I go back in again and I'm like, hey man, I know we had the opioids conversation, but I'd like to talk about it again, And I just kind of get him going and I get him to say that he doesn't prescribe opioids to people. And I was like, well, you sure are prescribing a lot of opiates to this guy.
Oh.
And he kicked me out of the office and I turned him
Okay.
in for a HIPAA violation that cost him a couple $100,000. So fuck
Yeah, I was
him.
gonna say that. Yeah,
Yep. So fuck
he should have
him.
played that a little bit smarter.
He should have. He should have.
If he wouldn't have thrown you out of that office, it might have saved him a couple of bucks. He could have said, "Oh, I see. Oops. Let's talk about this."
Yeah.
God damn.
It's something. And I've been through it on these fucking doctors. And I've got a decent one right now. And he's actually not even a doctor. I've had better luck with nurses, believe it or not.
Yeah, I believe that actually.
And I think it's because nurses are more open-minded. They're
Yeah.
willing to listen to you. They're willing to sit down and do some research where a doctor is just not,
No, a doctor is a professional. He's going to tell you what you need to hear or what he needs you to hear. And the nurse actually is going to listen.
Yep.
That's what they're trained to do. They're trained to listen and note and respond directly to what the patient is saying. I don't think doctors are trained that way
Nope.
anymore. I think they're pretty well just told you're the professional here. You're the one with the medical expertise. Don't let your patient doctor you.
Yeah, and it's really the computer runs the show. It doesn't matter if
Right.
it's a doctor or a nurse. The
It will,
computer
yeah,
makes the
yeah.
decisions. Like
Yeah.
it'll tell you what medications you can and can't take
Yep.
together. It'll tell you, what to recommend based on this. And essentially, they've got their head in the computer 90% of the time. But so I had a doctor at the clinic that I'm at now. I had a nurse who started me on ketamine, which I was kind of nervous about at first because I'd been on ketamine in the burn unit and it put me into a fucking hole. I can tell you, those K-holes are not fun when you're tied down to a bed in a hospital after surgeries.
Ooh.
Anyways, so she got me on this shit and then she moved clinics. I'm like, fuck, I got to get a new fucking doctor. So that I got a new doctor or nurse at the same clinic and he wasn't up to date on the ketamine at all. He's like, oh boy, I've never prescribed ketamine to somebody. And I'm like, man, it works great. Like, please don't take it away from me, this and that. And after like a month or two, I went back and saw him again. He was like, so I sat down and did a bunch of research on ketamine and wow, like amazing stuff. I'm giving it to like 4 other patients already. And I was like, wow, like that's really cool. You were unsure about something. You gave it a shot. You did the research, realized there was something to gain, and then applied it to other people. Didn't just go, oh, that's okay for him. We'll just let it go and then forget about it forever. No, if it works for him, maybe it'll work for somebody else,
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me at all that it's a nurse that you're talking about and not a doctor. Not
Yep.
one bit. It really doesn't. I haven't had a lot of experience because I haven't had any particular major health, knock on wood. Myself, none of the family has had any major issues, but peripherally, the people around us, the
Yeah.
stepfather and things like that, when they're happy, hell, just my children being born, I remember the doctors just being complete morons.
Yep.
It just seemed like they were inept and completely oblivious to what's going on. It's like I don't know if they were playing golf. I know sometimes they were.
Yeah. Here's a
And
great piece of advice for people that you can use for doctors. It's a very easy thing to do. Stroke their ego. Every time they come into the room, You stand up, you put your hand out to shake their hand, and you go, "Hey, doc, how are you?"
Mm.
Doc. That word doc is very important because you have to stroke their ego. Yes, I am the doctor. You are the patient.
Mm.
And it just seems like when you say, "Hey, doc, how are you?" rather than, "Hi, how are you?" or "Doing great," it just seems to get you a little bit further.
Dude, that's a solid piece of advice in dealing with anyone in anyone. If the first time you see somebody in the day, whatever it is, you smile, you say hi, you address them by their title, you address them with respect, and you're going to start off your day in a much better position than you would if you. I know a lot of people. I would say almost most people. They go into the office and they try to slink into their seat and not say hi to anyone, not acknowledge anyone, not to. Can you imagine trying to hide out in your cubicle all day long and trying to avoid, it's something like a nightmare office space, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, speaking of titles, here's an interesting pivot. Mr. President, what do you think about his tariff policy? That was something I
Oh
wanted to ask
God.
you about. What do we think?
Yeah, tariffs. It's the economic equivalent of kicking yourself in the nuts is what it is. So um yeah,
Oh, that's a great
it's
show
not
title.
good.
No.
I I could go through the whole thing. I've done the tariff stuff. I one of the things when I was first starting to try to figure out some of these economic things, reason them out in terms of I already understand them in a sort of natural sense, but to sort of put them down on paper and go, all right, well, this is how this works. If you do this, it affects this way and this and this. There's this chain of events, and tariffs are like that.
Cause and
And
effect.
it just you can't even get across to these people the very simple notion of there's an impediment to trade, and your answer to the impediment to trade is to create another impediment to trade. And then another one, and another one, and another one, and you see how far away we get from trade. I will, and so what's going to happen here is we've already seen this with the president and the people that support him in particular in this little trade war. People that a minute ago were like, "No, tariffs are bad. We can't do this. This is not the way you work an economy." And now they're switched and they're supporting him, and they're doing it with the weakest of arguments because it's the bully argument, right? That's what we're talking about here. Trump is being a bully to every other economy around the world, and when it works, they're ignoring the part about him being a bully. They're ignoring the part where he's used threats of force and threats of coercion and every bit of manipulation to suggest that we're going to harm you economically or any other way. We already know Trump's a jingoist. So you have you all you're doing is you're going around, you're bullying people into accepting your terms, and there's a core problem with the idea that that you would use tariffs as a bullying mechanism, because the problem is not other people's trade with us. This idea that there's a trade imbalance is a joke. There's no such thing as a trade imbalance. I'm a store owner, comic book shop owner, a retail shop owner. I do not have a trade imbalance with my customers. I almost never buy something from my customers. We do not have a trade imbalance.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. So what's really happening is you have an industry like the steel industry. We'll go back 25 years or whatever, 24 years to when George Bush did the steel tariffs that ultimately destroyed our steel industry. That is, put it where it is today, because they were responding to some hiccups in the industry and some changes in the economy of the entire world. And they passed these tariffs and basically sank our entire industry. Well, the problem wasn't with the rest of the world. The problem was with our industry keeping up with the changes in the economy and the rest of the world. And so that core problem is there's something wrong with the business. There's something fundamentally wrong that needs to be fixed, and a tariff is not going to do that, period.
You know what I think is interesting is people don't understand that money is fungible. It's like I get the argument where, he's using these tariffs as a wedge issue to
Hmm.
negotiate better deals. I get that
Yeah.
argument. Would I use that same tactic to achieve that? I don't think so. I
No,
think it would
that's
be
what you do. That's exactly what you do. You say you're a businessman, right? Would you bully your customers into doing business with you? No, you would not.
no.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I would do is stop giving my customers money for
Yes.
nothing. That would be the first thing. We're going to cut off all of this bullshit. I get in arguments with fucking Canadian motocross racers all the time because they're idiots and they're liberals, Canadians. And like, as motocross racers, we've been under attack by the state for my entire fucking life. And most of it has been through the Democratic Party. So like, it just drives me fucking nuts to see these guys who are like essentially cheering on the people destroying the sport that you love in a lot of ways. And it's like, just look at this from a different perspective. Like, if we were to just up and stop giving all these countries money if we pull out of NATO, all of this shit would go away. All of this socialism in Canada, all of this socialism in Europe, all of that stuff would go away. And all it is just yanking money. It's like, yeah, I get the tariff thing. They're taking, but it's money on top of money on top. We're giving them
Yeah.
money in so many areas already that you have to cut off. At some point while I was in the hospital, my burn doctor came to me and said, "We've been debriding your tissue, the dead tissue, as much as we can over the past couple weeks. It just keeps getting worse, and at some point we're going to have to cut out the rot." And the rot is not a trade war. The rot is the subsidies that all of these countries have been getting for so many fucking years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge problem, and it's the same
Because, like,
conversation.
I would
That's why
guess,
it
I,
gets it kind of gets a
yeah,
little bit old
I would guess if
having
we
it
pulled those
because we were
subsidies,
talking about the schools just a minute ago. We're talking about this economy, and it's exactly the same problem of subsidizing things that one don't need subsidized. There's these little cliques, these little groups of
yep,
people that somehow just manage to manipulate their way in and steal a bunch of our money ultimately.
yep. If we yanked all of those subsidies, I would guarantee that those countries would be ready to come to the table and negotiate trade.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, look what he did. He just took $2 billion away from us. Defense. Oh, now we have to pay for it. Hey, Mr. Trump, what can we do here? Can we kind of make a deal and maybe keep some of this military equipment in our backyard? They're going to be calling immediately.
Well, it's an interesting thing because what you're seeing now is the results of something that happened 30 years ago. Mid 90s, when the world changed. The opening up of the internet, the wall falling. There's all sorts of things. Late 80s, early 90s into the mid
NAFTA.
90s that culminate in changing the entire economic atmosphere of the world. And what America has done is failed to keep up with it in a lot of cases. That the steel industry is one of those things where they started to do, they saw something was changing, and instead of responding within the industry and changing the industry and making the changes that needed to be changed to get with the rest of the times and the rest of the world, you slap a tariff on it. And so that's why we are where we are today, because we have these people, we have an entire generation of leaders that are still living back at the time before this economic change, before the opening up of the world, and before realizing that we're all tied together, and so much more now than right at that time. Because look at what happened. So much for the bully, whatever. Trump starts talking tariffs to China, and all of a sudden China has to look at what it does and what it's importing and the things that it has to bring in to create the things that it's creating, to export the things that it exports, and it realizes that there are things that it makes a whole lot of money on that it can't sell to other places unless it's doing good business with America, and vice versa. And so that's why now all of a sudden it appears like this tariff thing is working, but it's just an appearance. It's just bully politics. fix. It's just beating people up until they get in line. So we're not fixing the industries. We're not fixing the core problems. We're
Mhm.
not fixing the redistribution of wealth that is taking the money out of the productive spaces and putting it into unproductive spaces, regardless of whether those are people or ideas or businesses or whatever. And we're not changing that. We're not doing that, and that's all we see year after year after year after year. Again, going back to the student loan thing in the schools, what did we just see back in 2008? That's not that. That's not too far back for most people to remember. 13 years. What happened in 2008? We had a subsidized industry of bankers loaning people money that they knew goddamn well they wouldn't be able to pay back. Well, now take your education system and realize that that's been going on since the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's still going on, and it's literally the same problem created by the same groups of people in just another industry, and it's going to catch up with
Yeah.
that industry like it is now.
And this nostalgia is fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't know about you, but I am under no impression that manufacturing is coming back to America for a couple of
Not like
reasons.
this.
Like, first off, Americans don't want those jobs. They're fucking lazy. They want to go to
Yep.
college. They want to hand out for the most
Yep.
part. They don't give a shit about that. And secondly, I don't think that these bigger companies like Nike or Chevrolet or Ford are looking at these tariffs and going, oh God, if we don't move our factories back to America, we're going to be screwed. I think
No.
that they're going to go, you know what? We're going to weather the storm and wait for another Democrat to come back
Another
in
Democrat.
and just
Yep.
wipe the slate clean, and we're going to be
They'll wipe the
fine.
place. Yeah, back and forth, back and forth. And here's the thing about it. So Apple's a really good example of that. So Apple and the iPhones, a lot of them are made in China, right?
Yep.
As soon as they started talking about tariffs in China, what did they do? They
Start
went and
shipping them
ramped
to
up
India.
production in India.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Yep.
So you're going to pass another tariff on India too? All right.
And like,
now we really are in a trade war.
and then this BoomerCon like idea where like this really drives me nuts about like boomers or just conservatives in general is they have this nostalgic idea of America in the 50s and 60s. And like, if we could just get rid of the immigrants and bring back factories, everything would be great again.
That's not the problem.
No, one of the major problems is what we already discussed. We've got every teacher and guidance counselor in this country telling everybody to go to college.
Going to college.
How
Well,
are you
and
going
then
to
you
fill those
also
factory
have
jobs?
Because the economy continues to be the way that it is, you have more people going into the workforce. You have less people staying at home, less people caring for the children directly, whether you send them to school or not. And so what we're getting, this is the big push, and this is ridiculous because during my wife's time teaching in this school district here, this particular school was the worst school in the entire district here, and we're talking about the capital city of Kansas.
Mhm.
And their ideas of fixing things were this was their plan to fix things, to make things better. Let's bring the kids in at younger age. Let's start them at 4. They're already not wanting to be here. There are so many problems with the education system, but the two biggest glaring ones are the way it's funded and the fact that it's compulsory, that people are forced. This is not just the college thing. We're talking about the college thing and about the whole bunch of people that don't need to go to college. There's a whole bunch of goddamn people that don't need to go to school, period, and don't want to be there.
I was
and
one
they
of those
shouldn't be
guys.
forced to be there, especially at the expense of everyone else who does want to be there to learn.
And dude, like my teachers fucking hated me. I was a pain in their ass. I wanted to be a pain in their ass because I couldn't fucking stand them either. Nobody wanted me there. I didn't want to be there.
You didn't want to be
At
there.
one point, we tried to get out on homeschool, but my parents were young and they didn't really know what to do. So we kind of went into the school office and they were like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You don't have
You're
a
not
good
gonna
enough excuse. And my parents were like, well, we tried. And
tried.
at least they're smarter now. Like my mom is remarried and her husband has an 11-year-old that's on homeschool, and we're in Idaho, and even the schools in Idaho, they're no different than the ones in California for the most part.
No,
they
I'm
do
sure.
the same shit. Like I gave my parents like a list of questions to ask these schools when they went to, like look at them and shit like that. And they got down to like question 3 and they're like, okay, we're out of here. Like we can't even, and it's funny too, because they are prepared for those questions and they still can't answer them
And they
in a
still can't
way
answer
that
them.
they need to. They're liars, you know, and they know that they're going to get these questions and they know that they have to answer it in a certain way and they still can't do it because it hurts them so bad to
Mm.
lie, you know, and the things that we've done to people in this country, it's just unforgivable. Like I was talking with my mother the other day about school and high school and college. And like I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life when I was 15 through 20. All I knew is like I love riding dirt bikes. It's all I really wanted to do. I didn't have a career path in mind. I am not somebody that should have been sent to college. You should not go to college if you don't have a clear like career path by the time you're like
Yeah.
15, you know? And my mom goes, you know, all I really wanted to be was a mom. I go, yeah, and the government fucking stole that from you. They went off the gold standard. They stole your ability to have a single income family running the
Sent you to
house.
the
Like,
workforce.
yeah, in the 60s and the 50s, you could run a household, a successful household
You
on
still
single
can
income.
today. I know
If you
that
make a
you
lot of
can
money,
because
you
I'm proof
can.
of it. My wife has
Yeah.
been the primary provider in terms of the finances while I've been at home doing my things
Well,
all
that's
these
good.
years. And we always made it a point that one of us had to be home to care for the children. We have 3 children. There has to be somebody around. And she's infinitely more employable than I am because frankly I'm an asshole.
Yeah, me too.
I don't
I'm a
tend to put up
difficult
with
guy.
bullshit.
Me neither. Oh.
I will tell an employer to go fuck themselves as quickly as I will tell anybody else to go fuck themselves. I do not care about money. That's not great for a stable family. So yeah, and you know what? You know what makes a great man is a great woman. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I'm a difficult guy to employ in a lot of ways too because as a bartender, I was very good at my job. I was one of the top. I was a 1% bartender in San Francisco. I was one of the best in the city.
nice.
Objectively, my boss would say it, like people would say, I was a very good bartender, and I did not take shit from people. I didn't take shit from my manager. I had no problem telling him that's a stupid fucking idea and we shouldn't do it. You know,
Yeah,
like
right.
one of the things this guy's an idiot that I worked for. He would go to Maui and oh, Dukes is wearing white shirts. I think we want to do that. I'm like, motherfucker, you have me making drinks with blue carousel in it and you want me to wear a white shirt. Are you fucking
Make any
retarded?
sense.
You know, and I ended up getting kicked out of the managers' meetings because it was just too contentious with me there.
Can't they even just like think like Deadpool?
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know.
I wear the red so you can't see the blood. Come
Right?
on.
I mean, just black, man. Give me a black shirt. It's just so stupid. Like some of the things
Yeah,
people do.
that's weird.
Yeah, and I made that guy a shitload of money. I made him so
Right.
much fucking money because I could run the bar by myself, and I had to be replaced with 3 people when I quit because you couldn't do what I did. And you know, I had a couple good ideas at that place though that I gave that guy that I probably shouldn't have given him because he didn't deserve to
Yeah.
have those good ideas.
Well, obviously he was looking for something else. If he's talking about going someplace, ooh, I was in
Yeah.
Cabo San Lucas,
yeah.
somewhere, some bar, some random ass club in some place that gets far more business and is exclusive to them than our one club in LA here with a million other clubs around.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's go ahead and let's change our business model to match theirs, and
Yeah.
let's wear their uniforms. Let's serve the drinks they're serving. This is the kind of shit that it makes you wonder how some guys are able to start a business at all. And so often when I ask that question of somebody, mom and dad,
Yeah. And I think that's
almost
probably
always,
how he did it too, because he was not
yeah,
a great
yeah, I'm
businessman.
not
Like
surprised.
he made, and just like hearing you say that, like I kind of step back for a second and go, yeah, like if I was running my own restaurant, I have a menu that I created for a restaurant years ago. Like I wanted to start my own restaurant at one
Want
point.
to do it?
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
don't
be
we all?
copying anybody. Like I would do what I want to make. I would make the stuff that I like. I would make drinks that I like. I would make food that I like. If I like it and it's good, then I'm pretty convinced that other people are going to like it as well. And the last thing I would do was go to some other restaurant and look at what they did and apply it to mine.
Yeah,
It's like I have enough
specifically,
experience.
yeah,
I have
yeah,
enough experience where like I can see a little piece here or a little piece there that I might be able
yeah.
to bring
That's
over,
yes,
but an entire policy or an entire dress code or something like that, it's just
yeah. It's
that's
silly.
ridiculous. It's silly. It's
Well,
stupid.
it just shows a lack of creativity, a lack
Yes.
of real thought
Yes.
in to
Independent
why
thought.
they do what they do. And obviously, the answers are real simple in a place like that. You know, in a place where the sun is or something like that, and you're on the beach and everything. There's a reason that they're dressed a certain way, and it may not be suitable for the downtown LA club or something. It's just weird the ideas that people will get. I think it's that maybe they watch too much of that. Kitchen Nightmares or
Yeah.
something like that, and think,
Yeah. And I did that for a while too. I watched a lot of John Taffer Bar Rescue because I liked
oh, he's
learning.
fun.
Yeah,
Love
I
watching
liked
him.
learning from his bartenders. He would bring in really good bartenders, and they'd show
Yeah,
you different ways to make drinks and
yeah,
different tools, and so I enjoyed that. But I wouldn't like take. I was not the type of bartender that would be on that show. I was a high
right.
speed, make drinks really fast type of guys. So I couldn't apply everything that they did to my job. I wouldn't have time to do it. But there was certain things where it's like, "Oh, I could use that here or I could do that over there." You know what I mean? And a lot of it is like one of the big problems I had with bartenders that I worked with was you have to have standards. If you have multiple bars in one restaurant, they have to be set up the same. Because if I set my well up, there's a right and a wrong way to set up a well. There's only one right way to set up a well. And people should do it that way, but not everybody does. They've never been taught right or they don't get why it's set up the way it is. And I would go back, "Oh, can you come to the back bar? I need help. I'm slammed." And I go back there and I'm like, "What the fuck? Now I got to
What are
change
you
your
doing
fucking
here?
well around. Like, this is stupid. Get your fucking well in gear or I'm not
Yeah,
going to help you. I need to be able to go back there and do exactly what I need to do and not think
yeah.
about it. And so I can get back to do my fucking job and make myself money and not be worried about making your money. Like, if you want my help, make it easy for me."
Well, that's it, right? They overcomplicate it. I saw some number the other day that was more than 50% of uh, employees don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's just sort of a general sense of they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They just kind of walk through their day doing things and
Well, that's just most
then go
people.
home.
That's most people, actually. I read a stat recently that said like 60%, up to 60% of people don't have an inner monologue going
Oh
on in their
yeah,
head.
yeah.
And they're
I've had
just
that
kind of,
conversation before.
did we? Okay, yeah, they're just kind of existing like a zombie. So, yeah, that totally checks out to me.
Yeah, no, that's something I've come across over the years, and I've talked to people about it, and it's weird. I can't. It doesn't make sense to me. It means that to me tells me that the person is not
Broken.
in touch with themselves. That they think that everything that they think is sort of spontaneous. That there's no process going on in here. And it's really weird. I find it almost hard to believe. I'm thinking that these people just don't understand their own mind.
That could be because, like, dude, imagine having nothing going on. I can't even
Right.
imagine it. Like, for me,
How are
there's
you
something,
not
it's
having
going,
conversations with yourself about almost everything you do?
I have to try and quiet myself like while I'm doing this. It's like, no, no, no. You need to shut up. I'm listening to Mike
Yeah.
rant about taxes
Well,
right
but
now.
then I
Like
look
I
at the
need to,
same
and
these
but then
same
my mind's
people.
going, "Oh, take it here. Oh, take it there.
Yes.
You can use this part and go this direction with it."
Yeah.
And it's constantly trying to figure out what the next move is. There's a great
Actually, you know what? There may be something in your physiology that enables that, because I know that there's something in my physiology that helps enable that. And that is the my drumming.
mm,
So the when you train your body to move differently, all four limbs moving differently
yes.
independent of each other, it's not your brain doesn't know how to do that. You have to teach your
Yes.
brain how to do that, and when you teach your brain how to do that, it actually creates physical components in your brain that where everybody else has to go from here all the way around to here to get to here, you created this new connection right here.
Yes.
And so being a physical person, the motorcycle riding,
That's
things
where I
like
was
getting
going with
your
it.
body to
Yep.
work with your brain and get your body to do what you want it to do, not what it wants to do. This leg wants to follow that leg, and this arm wants to
Yep.
follow that arm. You're telling it, no, you got to do what I want you to do. And you're creating new synapses. You're
Yes.
literally creating new synapses in your brain that other people don't have.
And it becomes second nature. When I'm on a
Yeah.
dirt bike, you're doing two things with your right hand, you're doing something with your left, you're doing a different thing with each foot,
It's a foot
and you
going
have
over
to
here
have
and a foot going over here.
your body positioned in the right place. So you're doing so many different things all
Yep.
at once, and you literally do not have the time to think about it. You're going
Yep.
too fast, you have to just react. And yeah, dude, that stuff becomes second nature. And I can imagine drumming's exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Bartending was the same way. I knew, like, okay, my bottles are here, my taps are over here, and like I had a way of doing things. I called it economy of movement. Like I don't run from here over there to get something. I
Mm-hmm.
do what I need to do over there. I
Yep.
grab a fucking order on my way over here, and then I can kind of build drinks in a certain way to make it go the fastest and the easiest. And I'm not making unnecessary movements. And that was
Yeah.
something I tried to teach people, but you just have to get good at the job and learn the bar that you're working in and just really get those movements down. And yeah, dude, that's a great fucking point.
Yeah, I just a neat thing. I was just looking into it, and because one of the exercise, one of the reasons that I do all this is just so that I'm um, still thinking.
Yeah.
That my brain's not atrophying. I see all these people. They as they get older, their brains just turn to mush. Now, I know the body's turned to mush, but and we understand we can do something about that. But you can do something about it with the brain too, and just keep using it and keep working and thinking and talking and creating new connections in that brain.
Yeah. I thought that building a popular podcast was going to be a lot easier than it actually is. And at this point, like, there's zero chance I'm ever going to make any money off of this. Like I've put that out to pasture and put it down
Yeah.
a long time. Well, Yeller, sorry, buddy, you're no money coming in here, but I still do it because I enjoy it. I enjoy
Yeah.
giving myself a challenge of talking with somebody and being able to carry a conversation and not be boring.
Yeah.
I like meeting new people. I like talking with you for an hour. Like it doesn't matter what we talk about for the most part. I just enjoy the social aspect of it because I don't have a massively social life anymore. Like I don't enjoy going to bars and shit like that. Like I'm not a drinker. I've worked in enough bars and been around enough drunk people that like that just doesn't do it for me. I don't like doing it at all. I would much rather do this for an hour than go have drinks at some fucking Chili's with my buddies for a couple hours. Like I that is just so far out of left field for me. I have zero interest in doing it. So
Yeah, no, it
it's
was
been
something you did
nice.
when you were a kid. When I was a
Yeah.
DJ in college, hell yeah, I wanted to be at the bar every night, hanging out with the fucking bands and
Yeah.
and handing out T-shirts and stickers and getting all the attention that a rock DJ gets, which it's more than the average person
Oh
gets.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, no, I get it, having all that fun, but I too, I set that stuff aside and not there was no concerted effort on it. It's not like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. It's just like one day I didn't go anymore.
Yeah.
There was just no reason for me to go there and do those things anymore. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't interesting. I was doing something else, whatever it was. Kind of almost like smoking. When I quit smoking, it
Yeah.
was one of
Dude.
those things that just decided I'm not going to buy a pack again. And then, of course, a 25, 30-year addiction, and I needed a little help after that point. But, the first step was it just wasn't there anymore. I just wasn't going to do it anymore. That was it. I had to make that leap, I guess.
Yeah. I'm actually there right now with smoking pot. Like I'm down
Are
to
you?
I'm down to once a day now. I
That's all
I don't
right.
have a ton of money. Like I'm pretty tight on bills. And I live in Idaho. And to be honest, it's not the money thing as much as I watch too many police videos on the internet, and I'm terrified driving to Oregon and back every
Yeah.
time. It scares the shit out of me. Like I don't want to get arrested for felonies in Idaho for marijuana possession. Like that's fucking terrifying to me. It could destroy all my entire life could be destroyed doing that. So I don't know, man. I'm at the point where it's like it doesn't really I don't like doing it during the day as much anymore. I feel like it kind of drains my energy. I'm already have a tough time sleeping and a tough time like getting awake during the day. Just
Hmm.
putting myself back into a coma doesn't really fucking help me much.
Yeah, no, I can see how that would definitely be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, man. Like it's something that I've enjoyed for a long time, and I do think it has really great medical benefits. But like I gave up on the social aspect of it fucking 20 years ago. You know, like when I was
Sure.
in my early 20s, like me and my
Oh
buddies
yeah.
would smoke out. We had the bong set up in the garage, and like
Oh
it was a
yeah.
social thing. And now it's like I'm
Blunt that
down to
way, joint that way, pipe
yeah,
over
and
there.
now I
Yeah.
kind of treat it more like a medicine, and you know, I just once at night, like I don't smoke out with my like none of my buddies even smoke pot anymore. They look at me like I'm a fucking like a child. Like, what are you doing? Stop. Yeah.
It's funny how we can all change a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm not being pressured to not do it by other people. It's
Right.
well,
It's a choice you're making.
the state is kind of like a lot of pressure. I would imagine if state pressure wasn't on me as much, it wouldn't be such a big deal,
Maybe. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say about that. And I don't see marijuana becoming legal in Idaho anytime soon. Like it's one of these things where Republicans are just fucking morons and they're all about bodily autonomy for vaccines or you know, whatever else. But then you get to marijuana and all of a sudden, no, that's evil. Think of the children. I remember seeing a Tucker Carlson segment during COVID. I liked watching Tucker once or twice a week during COVID to see what right wing America was seeing. And he did a like a segment with some liberal woman about you know vaccines. Oh, it's my body, my choice. You know the thing. They're just kind of fucking trying to stick it to the libs by bringing a lib on to say what the libs used to say. And they
Sure.
do the whole segment. It's a good segment. You know, it's vaccines, the vax is poison, whatever. And then the absolute next segment was marijuana is bad for you and you shouldn't do it and it should be illegal. And it's like, dude, you can't even keep your fucking principles in line for 10 minutes. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I would
Not
look
from
at
one
that as a
conversation to
producer
the
and go, wait a
next.
minute,
Yeah.
this doesn't really line up. Like your values are kind of off here. Maybe we should put a segment in between so people don't really see that. I don't know.
Yeah, let's just slip a different part in there, and they won't catch it.
Let's
They didn't even go
slip
that far.
a Pfizer
Well, I think
commercial in
that they
there.
assume that their audience is probably with them
They are.
on
Oh,
the
for sure.
conversation, and that,
Yeah.
that they don't have anything to lose in that. That the audience isn't smart enough to look at it and go, "That's a complete contradiction of ideas." And it's not. It's the core idea. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, again, two issues I have no friends on either side with because they think I'm on their side of the issue when I'm not. When I'm on the side of liberty and individualism and freedom and
Yeah.
anarchy and anything other than the side that any state party is on. Because if it's a politically sided issue, they're wrong.
And the great thing about like being a libertarian or an anarchist or just a freedom loving American like we are is that like you don't have to worry about what the audience thinks. Like I'm not captured by my audience. You're not captured by your audience. Alex Jones is 100% captured by his audience. You can
Yep.
see from the start of the war and I hate to even call it a war in Israel and Gaza because it's not even a war. It's a violent occupation. And like you can see how he started in one spot and then he's kind of moved to another spot. And like the dude's just fully captured by his audience. And that has to be an awful place to be in morally, like to go home and think, well, like I kind of think this way. But I've noticed it when like he'll have a Bitcoin person on and he just has to bring up gold. Well, the Bitcoin. Well, what about gold? And it's like, no, dude, we're not talking about gold right now. You brought me on to talk about Bitcoin. Like I'm not into this gold thing. Maybe you know your audience is, but I don't care about your audience. I'm here to teach people about Bitcoin, not gold. You know, but you have
He's
to
been
do
like
it.
that for years. He's
Oh yeah,
always had problems having those conversations. And it's funny because you could just not have those
Mhm.
conversations. That would be the easier way to do that, rather than compromise your position or make it appear as if your position is compromised.
Yep.
Just don't have the conversation. You want to ask me about Israel and Palestine? I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. And you don't have to. Like, it's kind of crazy that we're expected to just have an opinion on these places. And like, I think the proper opinion on it is I care about America. They can deal with their own problems over there. I don't really care what other countries do if they're spending their own money on it. I do
Nope.
have a little bit of a problem with them spending our money on it. But again, like,
Yeah.
I am not required to have an opinion on Israel, Gaza. I'm not required to have an opinion on Ukraine and Russia. Like, oh, you're spouting
Well, they can
Russian
both be
points.
wrong.
Like,
That's the thing
yeah,
about it. It's literally what I was just saying about if it's a political issue, it's fucking wrong.
yes,
It doesn't matter if you're on the left side of a political issue, you're on the wrong fucking side.
yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're on the right side of a political issue, you're on the wrong fucking side because you're on a political issue.
There's no right side of a war. It's a
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
war. You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, there's horrible people in war on both sides. Like, there's going to be disgusting atrocities. And, like, I don't want to be a cheerleader for some fucking disgusting regime that I would not want to live under or want to live near me. I don't want either of those countries near me, you
Right. I
know?
don't want nothing to do with
I want my
Israel's
nice big
government. I don't want
oceans.
nothing to do with the Palestinians. None of that. I don't want to be under any of their rules. I don't want to be in any of their situations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be playing a game that's been going on for 60 fucking years now of, oh, is this a state? Is this not a state? Are we a real people? Aren't we
Yeah.
real? Are you fucking kidding me? We're talking about borders and labels instead of fucking bodies and actual people?
Yeah. I
And
remember.
you and me, we're not talking about the same thing, buddy.
Yep. I remember during right in the beginning of that fucking disaster, Alex Jones was on Steve Bannon with Eric Prince, which is just like objectively one of the worst Americans that has ever
Mm.
fucking lived. Just an awful, disgusting, horrible person. And they're like asking Alex, "What do you think what we should do?" Well, I would carpet bomb the entire area. And it's like, you you would do what? And then 3 months later, he's backpedaling the whole thing. Well, this and that, because his audience is starting to come back at the Jews. And it's just interesting to see these guys like kind of flop in the wind depending on who
Yeah,
they're talking
flip
to,
flop
right?
back and forth. Yeah, and it's because you mentioned already they compromise themselves and it's for the money. And it's one of the things that I stopped a long time ago looking for any real way to monetize the show directly. And that's why I started doing the comic book reviews. So I'm
Yeah,
throwing my comic book reviews
dude,
into my weekly show. I get a plug for my store, and that's it.
dude, I like the comic book reviews. I think it's a great idea also because comic books are fucking popular and you should be able to like flesh out the philosophy of a comic. Why is
Oh,
this
check it out.
like why was this written this way? What was the author thinking when he did where in your life could you apply this and have it be useful? Like I really enjoy that type of thing. I'm still a big fan of motocross and supercross racing, and I'd love to do
Sure.
like videos where I kind of break that type of stuff down and apply it to life and philosophy and politics and whatever else you can apply it to based on the experience that you've had with that medium. For me it's motorcycles, for you it's a comic book. Like those things so well that you can dissect them and say this is why and this is how and this is what. And for me it turned out to be a dentures. I hate my denture. My dentures suck so fucking bad and I feel like I have to get up and get my denture. It just ended up being too much of a pain in the ass, and I didn't like doing it. And I don't want to wreck the sport I love by like making it into a job. But like
Yeah, no, that's it.
I
That's a big
enjoy
deal
that you're
about
doing
that, right?
those. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to like hopefully push the philosophy to people who've never been confronted with it before. I
I'll give
didn't
you an
learn about this
example.
shit until I was 30 years old. And when
Mhm.
I finally found people who thought the way I did and who were anarchists and libertarians, they were telling me things that I'd believed my entire life. I just didn't
Just
know
didn't
you
have
were
a
allowed to
language for.
believe that. Like I
Yeah.
thought I was a crazy Republican that hated the cops and smoked weed. And it's like, well, they like a lot of the things I like, but then also they want to throw me in prison. So like,
Yeah.
how do I support these people? You know what I mean? And it took that time for me to like sit down and listen to people and go, holy crap, not only am I not crazy, but I'm on the right side of everything. And that's such an empowering feeling to get.
Isn't
And
it though?
like, you could do that for kids with comic books so easily.
I think so, and I think that I've been able to drop some things in, just a little bit, because I'm really not trying to, even with the show with Toward Anarchy itself. I'm really not trying to tell anybody any particular thing necessarily. I'm just talking about things that I like, things that I understand, things that I do myself, things that I know myself, and so this one's about to drop. A
Ooh.
book called Vatican City. And as soon as I get done here, I'm going to post this review. It was great because Vatican City, well, that opens up a conversation, because Vatican City is Vatican City State,
Yeah.
and Vatican City State is one of only 3 recognized city states, Morocco and Singapore being the other 2. But you and I and people in our circles know that there are also 2 more that are recognized but not talked about and not recognized officially: Washington D.C. and London.
Yeah.
And that conversation can send you down quite the rabbit hole, for sure. So yeah, I was able to drop that in there and talk about city states, and talk about how DC has its own laws, its own courts. It's not a state. It's this carved out little space. It's its own city state. And yeah, just the little shit like that
Yeah.
I
Like,
get to drop in there.
I'm the same way. So like, there's we have like an Olympics of motocross once a year where you have a team, from each country that goes. And like, it's typically in Europe. There's this, it's called MXGP. They're like the European Professional Racing League. And
Yeah.
they don't pay the riders, they don't pay the racers to win. Like, you have to pay for yourself to get there. So
Yeah.
they're like putting out like crowdfunding for the people, us, to pay for these guys to go over and race. And to me, like, everybody's complaining about it. I'm like, the fucked up part is we already subsidized this series. We're paying for this series. If NATO goes by, because like, the way that they do the series is not the way that we do it here. Like, yeah, it's a private company, but they're getting government money to do their races. They're going around to different countries all around the world, and governments are paying them to do races there. And we are subsidizing all of these fucking countries. Every one of these countries that they go to and race in, that they get money for, they are all subsidized by United States money. So now, not only are we subsidizing the series that they're wanting us to pay for, like, now we have to pay for it again to send our riders there. And it's just fucking stupid. And people don't put that type of shit together,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not fair, especially these days, because everything can be crowdsourced, crowdfunded.
Yep.
Government could be crowdsourced, crowdfunded.
Hey,
Always could have been.
if everybody loves Medicare so much, let's make it
Why don't they
voluntary.
pay for it?
Yeah, let's make it voluntary.
Yeah.
See how much everybody loves it, right?
Hmm.
Well, shit, Mike, we just went over time. I got into a rant there, and I wasn't really paying attention. So let's
That's all
call
right.
it
Trim it
here.
up however you got it.